Welcome to episode 10 of the Alpha Tutorials podcast. Today we're going to be chatting a bit about the floods in Thailand. We're also going to be talking about the Sony CEO and some accolades he's achieved and look at white balance. First of all, if you've been following any of the tech websites or photography websites out there, you should know by now that the flooding in Thailand has had a major impact on some of the big companies in the technology and photographic industry. In particular, Sony and Nikon for us have been hammered quite badly. Their first floor of their factories is kind of underwater at the moment. And that's had a massive knock on companies like Sony, for example, have said that the new Alpha A77, the 65, and unfortunately the NEX7, which I was so looking forward to having for Christmas, has been delayed due to the fact that the factory is underwater. A big problem for them there is that their sensor factory is based in Thailand, and so it's not only going to impact Sony, it's also impacting any other company that uses Sony sensors that come from that factory. So it's going to have a big knock on the industry. Nikon last week posted that the water was subsiding in their factory, and hopefully we'll see an end to it soon, but it's going to take a couple of months before we see things get back to normal. And it's been a double blow for these companies after the earthquake and tsunami in Japan. So hopefully things will start turning around soon. That's been a tough industry, tough year on the industry so far. But some good news for Sony has come in the form that Sir Howard Stringer, their CEO, was announced as Personality of the Year by the Photo Imaging Manufacturers and Distributions Association. Basically, they're the guys that run the PMA show that will be happening in January in Las Vegas. And they've awarded him this accolade along with some other people, some photojournalists and the co-inventor of the CCD, in trying to just create some more awareness of what's happening in the industry. So great hats off to Sir Howard Stringer there. He'll be receiving his award on the 9th of January. And if you want to get the full story on that, you can head over to the Alpha Tutorials website and click on the link in the show notes as well. Well, today we wanted to talk a little bit about white balance. Something that you may not think about too much is the fact that different types of light have different colors. Some of you may pay enough attention to notice it from time to time or notice it subconsciously, but have you ever really stopped to think about what different light source does to your photographs? For example, we all know that a candle light or a sunset gives a very warm orange light, although in physics and scientific terms, it's actually a cooler light, but never mind. The fact is that the look of the light is a warmer orange light. And so that does tend to create an impact on our photographs. A fluorescent light can have a green tinge to it. And so these type of things can be a bit undesirable for our photographs. Now, your camera has a white balance setting, which you can go and change between different modes, from daylight to tungsten to fluorescent lights, and various variations of those settings. As well as giving you custom white balance settings as well, where you could take, for example, here in our studio, when we turn the lights on for the fluorescent lighting, and we've got the studio lights on, we've got quite a mix of different colors. We could then take a white sheet and take a photograph of that and set that as our custom white balance to be able to get a good balance for all the different types of mixed lighting. White balance can also be used creatively, though, because, for example, let's say you want to add more blue to a scene. I don't know, a friend of mine was in Egypt a little while ago, and he took some photographs at twilight, but the light was just, the sky wasn't as blue as he wanted it to be. Instead of trying to use filters or edit it later, he simply dialed in tungsten white balance on his camera, where the camera adds blue to remove the orange from your tungsten light. And it just gave that sky a much richer blue effect, and it toned down the orange tungsten lights that were shining on the pyramids and that he was photographing. So there's some great creative ideas that you can use with auto white balance. The one thing that you must learn to do is get out of auto white balance. Auto white balance doesn't always get it right, and what I find is it's a lot easier to go and edit your pictures later and get your color right if you've been working on the same white balance setting the entire time. Well, that's it for the white balance section. Go over to the website alphatutorials.co.za if you want to find out a little bit more about white balance, or if you want to submit any questions to us. We had one question that came in through our YouTube channel. The guy's name is Frank392. Frank392 basically asked if it's possible to use the Alpha 35 in a studio. Now, there have been problems using the Alpha 33 and the 55 in a studio with the electronic viewfinder, because the camera gives a live display of what your scene is going to be like in terms of the exposure settings you're using. Now, in a studio where you generally turn your ambient light off and the only light is going to be coming from the flashes when they fire, there's not enough light to give you a bright enough viewfinder to compose with, because you're setting your exposure in manual. Now, the problem with that is that on the Alpha 77 and the 65, they've now put a setting in the menu where you can turn the live exposure preview off and just have a scene coming through on your screen or through the viewfinder. The Alpha 35, from what we've been told locally by Sony officials, is supposed to be getting that feature. So Frank 392, basically we will follow up on that and we will let you know. As we found on our review unit so far, there isn't a way to turn that off, but we will get back to you with an answer on that. The other alternative is to just kind of compose your scene, with the aperture priority mode set, and then when you're ready to start shooting, switching over onto manual. It's not a great workaround, but it is an option that you could look at using, or use the Sony wireless flashes instead of studio flashes. Well, that's it for this show. Be sure to send us your questions, alphatutorials.co.za, if you have anything that you want us to answer, and we'll see you on the next show soon. Probably in a new studio again. That's why we've had a little bit of a hiccup getting this one to you on time. But we look forward to your comments and your feedbacks in the notes. Please send them to us, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.